Well, all right. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the revolution. It's been a while. Things have been a little crazy, a little hectic. So, of course, you have my deepest and sincerest apologies. In that it was not my intention to to slack off and leave this kind of hanging. I'm trying to better my my skills in consistency. So yeah. What's new? Well, where to begin? The semester of college, another semester has concluded, and still no degree. It's okay. To be perfectly honest, I'm not quite sure I really have a whole lot of interest in acquiring a degree at this point. It's I'm much more pleased with just sort of what I have learned in the last several years of attending college. In that I've acquired many skills and I've learned a lot of things about myself in terms of what direction I want to go in life. Not just in my career, but in general, in a personal sense. So some other things that are new. Lost another very close friend, Jim Doris, a fellow that I grew up knowing. He was a friend of my older brother's way back when they were young, middle school, high school age, and we just always sort of just kind of knew each other. We were just acquainted, family friends, I guess you could say. But then in 2009, when I was in rehab at Hope Haven, he was there, and that was really meaningful to me. To see somebody so familiar in a place that was so new and different and scary. Not just as an unfamiliar place, but embarking on such a change in my life. So that really meant a lot to me. And then post rehab, seeing him continue on in his in his attempt at recovery and sobriety, and watching that kind of take shape and then change shape for him as he went through that, and then seeing him find great success in areas of his life through his time at Herzing College, and his many successes in debates all over the country. Despite the fact that he was dealing with the legal repercussions of his addiction, still being able to move around the country and be trusted by the powers that be to do that, and given that permission and that ability to move freely about, because of his obvious showing of dedication to turning his life around, to changing his life and being a positive influence in his community. there are very few people that I can, that I can count on one hand, uh, less than one hand. Those who were in treatment with me at that time that have maintained a successful, what I would consider a successful recovery, and by that I don't mean strictly complete abstinence. I mean a continued pursuit of betterment in their lives, striving to discover and rediscover themselves. People who take initiative and are courageous in moving through life, and as well as maintaining some freedom from their active addiction, regardless whether or not each one of these people has been 100% free and clear of all substances throughout their entirety of their time post rehab. Is really not what's important. I can't say that I have been completely clean and free of all mood and mind altering chemicals since being in rehab. 4 years after I stopped using alcohol and heroin and cocaine and all those other drugs, I continued to smoke cigarettes. So I was very much still addicted to nicotine, and I had to go to rehab to be to become addicted to caffeine, which is kind of funny. And of course, those two drugs in particular are staples in the 12-step recovery community. So, it doesn't even really get a mention or a nod in how much people lean on those. While others who I've who I remember being in treatment with, who have gone on to find their own versions of success in recovery, have found freedom from those substances, or from the substances that I mentioned: alcohol, heroin, cocaine, illicit drugs, and then some as well as nicotine, and that's great. Sadly, at the end of Jim's life, it was reported that he, while of course succumbing to what came as just a real shock, was a heroin overdose. It was reported that he also may have been intoxicated on alcohol, which just kind of goes to show that there is definitely truth in the Narcotics Anonymous piece of literature where it says, alcohol has caused a great many addicts to relapse. And I think people misinterpret what that means, and maybe perhaps why it was included. It is my understanding from those who were alive to see it, that when that part was implemented, it was because alcohol wasn't so much seen as a detriment to drug addicts. It was considered then an outside issue. But they were noticing that people who went on to continue drinking, despite having found success and freedom from other illicit drugs, or illicit drugs such as morphine, heroin, they would get drunk, lose their inhibitions, their ability to make sound judgments, and then end up returning back to their previous drug of choice. So when they say, has caused a great many addicts to relapse, it's not saying that it's caused them to relapse. Like that isn't the relapse. It's saying it's caused them to relapse on their previous drug of choice. Now we also recognize alcohol as obviously a drug, albeit a legal one. But at least we give that, some credence. Whereas tobacco is like, well, sure, it's a drug, but hey, let's not go crazy here with this whole abstinence thing, especially considering the fact that, nicotine and tobacco continues to destroy and end more lives than all other drugs combined. And also I should mention that, while sure, the population of smokers overall, throughout the country is dwindling, or not dwindling, but is decreasing. It should also be noted that upwards of 80% of those who are entering into treatment for alcohol or substance use disorder are smokers. 80% of those who are entering treatment for substance use disorder are smokers. And knowing that smoking kills about 50%, 50% of all those who partake, that is a shocking number. And to know that smoking is not only not so much as discouraged as it should be, but in many cases almost encouraged, where you can find people who work and facilitate these enterprises, these agencies, these venues of treatment and revisions of life. The people who work there are smoking with people, and it becomes a source of social integration, and people. I could go on and on. Anyway, the point is, sorry, a little bit of a tangent there. So I feel very strongly about that, and at some point, I think people are going to wake up to that reality. But I digress. My friend Jim died in a CVS bathroom, practically with the needle still hanging out of his arm. And then after that happened, there was kind of a lot of secrecy, a lot of hush hush surrounding the circumstances of his death, leading some to believe that he may have perhaps committed suicide, and I looked into this and found out that no, that was not the case. Not that it would have been any better or worse, really. I mean, his life is lost regardless, and that's a terrible tragedy in itself. But sadly, his family has decided to make his funeral a private engagement, which is sad, really, because he had so many friends that he had acquired throughout his 45 years here in Madison. So many friends, so many people that appreciated him and enjoyed knowing him. That it's really a shame that they will not have the opportunity to pay their respects in a way that will bring them closure and really honor to him. I've seen on social media that there are those who are planning a traditional Irish wake, in his honor, which, on the one hand is very sweet, but on the other, again, really not really staying consistent with his values. I think, in that he, not only did he struggle in his life with substance use and alcohol. But ultimately, that's what killed him. So to go ahead and celebrate his life by indulging in the very things that contributed to his death, I think it's not only insensitive and crass, but it's just fucking disrespectful. It's just inappropriate. And I'm not trying to be self-righteous. That's just real. I mean, if a family died in a plane crash, we wouldn't go and schedule a ceremony, a party for them, in an airplane hangar. I mean, you wouldn't do that. Or if somebody were, if somebody died, drowning, we wouldn't have a pool party, for them. If somebody dies from drugs, why is it that we think it's okay to celebrate their life or to try to honor them by indulging in that very thing that contributed to their death? I don't get that. I don't understand that. And I feel silly, and I feel ashamed, looking back on my life, having done that. I have done that. I've been the one to try to commemorate, someone's life, to celebrate their memory by, cracking open a bottle, or very well cracking open a vein. So I don't know. I mean, to each their own grief, but don't make a fucking spectacle of it, really. It's in bad form. So that's that. I personally, I would like to do something for Jim. Maybe I don't know. Maybe begin something in his name. Jim was a very charismatic individual and very very skilled in a lot of ways. He was a musician. He was a great debater. I mean, nobody could argue like Jim. And that's one of the great things about our friendship, is that, despite the fact that he and I would disagree so vehemently on so many different issues, we always maintained a level of mutual respect for one another, and I always really appreciated that. I always knew that regardless of how much we would be on two very, very separate, very separate sides of an issue, that ultimately, I saw him, as a human being, with principle, and he saw me too as one with principle, and I loved him for that, among other things. So what else is new? Well, Laura and I have, I'm proud to say, have called to a close one of the most spectacular examples of human interaction that I've ever been fortunate enough to know of. We began our relationship not just in knowing each other, but as a couple, domestically, romantically involved, couple. Um, some 6 years ago, and we have been through quite a lot together. We were, engaged to be married, and came very close to that being a reality, and then broke up, and then realized that no, it's we can't simply just walk in two different separate directions. We have to continue to know each other, and then realizing that no, we still care very, very much for each other. Even though like we found that we could not be cohabitants of a singular domain. And now we've come to a place where we've just accepted that, like, our relationship has grown so strong in friendship, and camaraderie, but has certainly, I don't want to say necessarily lost something in terms of romantic involvement, but just simply changed. Our interests have changed, for whatever that is. It's simply, they've changed. And while at first, that was kind of sad and scary, now I feel so grateful. I'm overjoyed. I have so much peace with this, like to see that we have accomplished what so few are able to do. Not only did we have a very successful relationship, but we concluded it without destroying anything. We've come out of this better people. We have created a wonderful template, if you will, for how to exist with another person, and that is amazing. That is beautiful. I'm so fortunate to have her in my life, and I know she would say the same for me. Yeah, I'm excited to see what new things happen for her. What other interests in love she may find. I'm curious to see. I'm excited for her. I'm happy for her. I can't wait to see how she engages in her next relationship. And wow, what a lucky person they will be to have her. So I know as word gets out, that the status of our relationship has changed. But speaking of which, we very ceremoniously and simultaneously changed our Facebook status to single last night after having this discussion and coming to the conclusion. It was really kind of funny, and we even solidified it with a high five, because that's how we roll. But anyway, I just I feel really good about that. While of course there are many other things going on in life that are confusing and upsetting and scary, I can say without a doubt, unequivocally, that at least this situation holds true as something pure and beautiful and amazing, and I am just so happy to be a part of it. Really. All right. Well, I should go. I think my laundry's probably done drying, and I have a dinner to get to, because Laura yesterday, on top of all these other things, celebrated 6 years of long-term recovery, and in fact abstinence from drugs. So today we're going to be meeting up with her sister and her sister's fella, and we're going to be having some food and enjoying the ritual of putting food in our mouths while looking at each other do that. So that should be good. And then following that, I'm going to be going to the Serenity Cafe 22 to sing a couple of songs. So I'm looking forward to that as well. All right, well, thank you for joining me once again, and take care, stay safe, and live free. Thanks for joining me. Peace.